All right, let's welcome your favorite gladiator, the greatest of his time, using the deadly weapon of knowledge, Mr. Cruz. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So glad you could be here. Thanks for the warm welcome, and let's get it on. All right. So, yep. Today we're going to be talking about gladiators. We're going to, in the whole, we're going to be talking about the Roman culture. All right. So, let's find out about Rome. Um, there's a lot to Roman culture. It's a very cultured civilization. A few key things. Let's talk about Forum. The Forum was the marketplace and public square. They used this from speeches all the way to everyday life, trading, and so forth. So this was one of the places to be in Rome. A majority of Rome was actually poor. You know, we hear a lot of the stories of, the rich and powerful from Rome because that's all what we want to hear. We don't want to hear stories of the low, poorly starving, hungry man and his family. We want to hear the stories of the emperors of Rome, the gladiators who rose big. We want the exciting stories. And a lot of conditions were bad. That's why those emperors who were very favored were the ones who tried to take care of a lot of these circumstances. In order to keep the poor appeased, they did is what I've mentioned in a previous lesson, bread and circuses. They offered feasts. The politicians will offer a feast and put on a gladiatorial event or some kind of sport event, a chariot races or, something to happen in order to entertain the crowd as well as feed them. So with full bellies and entertainment, they would think fondly upon whoever sponsored it because there would be a sponsor for the event. These games brought to you by, and whichever politician was bringing it. By Julius Caesar, by Pompey, by, and so people would look fondly, and so they would support that politician. Gladiators. One thing we all love from ancient Rome were the gladiators. And you can see down in the bottom corner here the remains of the Colosseum. Gladiators were slaves, criminals, and the poor. People could voluntarily sign up to be a gladiator. You would learn to fight and be thrown in. Now, you lost, you died. But people thought, hey, I can make it. I have no money. I can't feed my family. Let me become a gladiator. I know it seems crazy that somebody would sign up for this. But there were people who signed up to do so much gladiator fight, and they would make money, and then they would leave for, take the money to their family or to pay off debts that their families had. They would join the gladiators. Criminals, die or become a gladiator. Well, let me see. Die or have a fighting chance at least. No, well, and then slaves, and they would capture slaves all over, and those who looked fit and like they could fight, they would stick into the gladiator arena. These were the sports heroes of the ancient days. These were the Michael Jordans, the Drew Breeses. These were the, heroes of the ancient day. This was the sport, gladiator fighting. And slaves who earned enough wages could buy their freedom. A lot of times this was kind of rigged so that it didn't happen very often. And they would come up with outlandish fights. A lot of times in TV and movies, we see just one gladiator fighting another gladiator. But they would put gladiators against animals such as lions or bears, sometimes multiple. And they also put them on teams and have them reenact uh, famous battles and things from history and so forth. Uh, but this was huge entertainment, and a lot of times, um, would end fatally for quite a few people. And you can kind of see here in the bottom, uh, the patron of the games deciding whether to save or not to save the fallen gladiator. There he gets the thumbs down. All right, family. They had very large families, and these large families um, would be um, these large families would be very close, and the head of the families would be the paternus familias, and that was the oldest male in the family. And they had arranged marriages, and this paternus familias would arrange these marriages. At 14 to 16, a boy becomes a man. At age 12, a girl uh, would begin to be married. Now, they weren't all married at 12, but by 12, marriages were being arranged for them to be married, and usually to an older boy or man, usually at least higher teens to, all the way into his 20s or 30s, depending. Uh, Sometimes they had to go and become successful and build up so they could support the family. Women had some rights, but not many rights. Like the paternus familias could decide had rule over any of his sons, grandsons, great grandsons, his wife, and his unmarried daughters. And he could marry them off. He could decide if he wanted his children to divorce, get married, and if they disobeyed, he could have them killed. So there was some strict ruling over them. And you kind of see here, I got some stuff on, like some dress of the Romans. The language. They spoke Latin, which today is considered a dead language because no one. There are people who fluently can speak Latin, but no civilization speaks Latin anymore. However, Latin is the root of a bunch of our languages today: Italian, Spanish, French, which went on to influence many other languages like English. We still have Latin used in our society today. You look at some of our buildings, they have Latin. Our money, e pluribus unum. So Latin was their language, and it shows you that how in depth our world is full of Latin, or things that have spun from Latin. Shows you how great Rome influenced the world today. Arts and science. It was very similar with Greek, with small district differences. For example, statues. Both of them were very big statue builders, the Greeks and the Romans. The Greeks built if you look at Greek statues, their statues, all the men are perfectly, they all got muscles, and no one has any flaws. But if you look at the Roman ones, people have flaws. People have moles, or they have scars or indentions here, and no, people don't always look perfect in Roman statues. So Rome went with a more bit of realism in their art and statues. They used columns like the Greeks, but they added in arches and domes, and you can see like arches of some aqueducts here, and domes. They added these ins. They had plays and poets and historians who would go on to do many great works. Ptolemy mapped out and gave laws to the stars and the planets. They were big road builders. If you've ever heard the saying, all roads lead to Rome, that's because at one point in history, pretty much all the roads led to Rome. These roads, and this is what ancient roads would look like. They weren't paved asphalt like we see today. They were these stones that were cleared out. Everything was cleared out and laid down with these stones. so that it would make travel much easier and faster. Our roads today even date back to Roman times because, look at how wide our lanes are. They're the width of two horses that would be pulling a chariot. That's why our cars are the width they are, and that's why our roads are, so everything goes way back into the time of the Romans. Aqueducts. They were channels made for bringing water from long distances or carrying water to or fro over long distances. So that's just a little bit about the Roman culture. It goes way more in depth than that, but this is just a little bit to kind of get you interested in it and let you find out. There's a lot of sources out there to go and find out about more about Rome, which is very interesting and very influential on us today. So until next time, deuces.